If we go long this morning, it's because Chris did 5 songs instead of 4. I'm crying too, I understand. Okay, we're going to be in a couple of places this morning, Jonah 1 and Mark 4. Look at 2 different storms and 4 different responses that we see in those storms. When I was, 3rd grade, 4th grade, my aunt took me and my sister and someone else, probably a cousin, to Six Flags. I've been to Six Flags lots and lots of times, but this was a unique time because towards the end of the day, we're riding the carousel. And it's not the big carousel. We were riding the smaller carousel. But the problem is, you could look, we were at the top, and you could look just out in the distance, and you could see a ridiculous thunderstorm, pouring rain, wind, all this stuff. I mean, you can see it headed right for us. Okay? And I got a little scared at that point. I'm thinking, okay, let's rotate down, let's get off. And we start going down, and I'm thinking, all right, we're getting off. Well, if you know Ferris wheels, that changes the story. Carousels are not terrifying, unless you don't like going in circles. On the Ferris wheel, I'm thinking we're rotating down, we're going to get off. Well, if you know anything about Ferris wheels, you know that's not how it works. Okay. They got to balance the weight so someone doesn't die. Of course, I don't really care if anybody else dies at that point. I just don't want to die. So they rotate us through. We're back up at the top. Storm's getting closer. Rotate us through. We're back at the top. Guess who was the last stinking person off the Ferris wheel? Me. But we survived. I'm still here. When you get stuck in storms, and I don't care what kind of storm, whether it's an actual physical storm or an emotional storm, it's a little unnerving. Okay, last Sunday morning when it decided to hail on my truck at 7:30 in the morning, I was a little unnerved by that. One, because hail's not supposed to fall at 7:30 in the morning, but you're sitting there and you're thinking, and you want to do something, but you really can't do anything. You just kind of let the storm roll on through and deal with the damage afterwards. Well, here we've got a couple of storms. And we've got some different responses to the storm that's going on. In Jonah 1, it says this. Okay. We're going to start in verse 4. Okay, but the Lord hurled a great wind upon the sea, and there was a mighty tempest on the sea, so that the ship threatened to break up. Then the mariners were afraid, and each cried out to his God. And they hurled the cargo that was in the ship into the sea to lighten it for them. But Jonah had gone down into the inner part of the ship and had laid down and was fast asleep. So the captain came and said to him, "What do you mean, you sleeper? Arise, call out to your God. Perhaps the God will give a thought to us that we may not perish." And they said to one another, "Come, let us cast lots that we may know whose account this evil has come upon us." So they cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. And they said to him, "Tell us on whose account this evil has come upon us. What is your occupation? Where do you come from? What is your country? What people are you?" And he said to them, "I'm a Hebrew, and I fear the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land." And then the men were exceedingly afraid and said to him, "What is this that you have done?" For the men knew that he was fleeing from the presence of the Lord, because he told them. Okay. Then they said to him, "What shall we do to you, that the sea may quiet down for us?" For the sea grew more and more tempestuous. He said to them, "Pick me up and hurl me into the sea, then the sea will quiet down for you, for I know it is because of me that this great tempest has come upon you." Okay, and we'll stop there. We'll jump over now to Mark 4. We'll start in verse 35. It says, "On that day, when evening had come, he said to them, 'Let us go across to the other side.' And leaving the crowd, they took him with them in the boat, just as he was, and the other boats were with them. And a great windstorm arose, and the waves were breaking into the boat, so that the boat was already filling. But he was in the stern, asleep on the cushion, and they woke him and said to him, Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing? And he awoke and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was great calm. And he said to them, Why are you so afraid? Have you still no faith? And they were filled with great fear and said to one another, Who then is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him? Now, you got two stories with a lot of similarities, but you've got different responses in each storm. Some background to this in terms of what they believed in those days. If I can find it. Okay. Ancient Near Easterners, okay, according to popular beliefs, believed in two different gods when it came to the sea. The first god was the god named Yam, or Yam, however you want to say it. He was the god of sea and chaos. Okay, they believed Yam was very volatile. He was uncontrollable. His opposite was the god Baal, okay, considered to be friendly to sailors. Okay, it was believed, though, that Baal's powers were strongest when you were near shore. The further you got out away from the shore into the deeper water, that's where the god Yam ruled. Okay, so that's kind of the mythology that's going along with what we see here. Okay, so I want to focus on four responses. One, I want to focus on the response of the sailors in Jonah. I want to focus on the response of Jonah. I want to focus on the response of the disciples, and I want to focus on the response of Jesus. Okay, so let's first look at the response of the sailors. And I would say this about them, or this point about them. Okay, when we're facing a storm, we can do one of four things. Number one, we can seek out something that can't save us. Okay, we can seek out something that can't save us. What is their response? Okay, their response is to pray to their God, not the God, their God. And in fact, they go to Jonah and they say, pray to your God. Okay, basically they're praying to every possible God that might exist simply in hopes of getting out of the situation they're in. They're just covering all their bases. Okay? They just want out of what they're facing. Okay? Now that's a very futile attempt, because that's a prayer of no faith at all. That's a cry of no faith at all, because you're just crying out to whatever's there. Okay, one example of this might be as coaches, if we're in a big situation in the fourth quarter and we're all looking at one another and we're saying, well, what should we call? Well, what do you want to call? Well, I don't know. What do you want to call? Well, let's go to the stands and let's ask them. We turn around to the stands, we say, what do y'all want to call? Okay, that would be a not so wise attempt. One, because you're going to get 50,000 different play calls. Okay, and you're going to get someone that, what's the play off of Little Giants? You remember? Whatever that play is. Someone would yell that out just to be funny. Okay, no, you're going to go to, we're, as coaches, going to look to our head coach, say, hey, what are we going to run? What are we going to call? Okay. When we're in a tough situation, sometimes we look to the stands. Okay. And the stands is full of people who know a lot but actually know nothing. If that makes sense. Okay. And I say that as someone who's been in the stands before. I think I know a lot, but you ask my family, I know nothing. Okay. Philip obviously relates with me on that. Okay. You see, a lot of times when we're in a storm, we go to places and people that know nothing. Okay. Life is full of of unneeded advice. Okay, people that will just throw stuff out at you because it sounds good. Okay, we don't want to be, as a person of faith, if we're a person of faith, we don't want to act in a way that is counter to our faith when we're faced with some kind of storm. Okay, because a person of faith isn't going to or shouldn't turn around to the stands and say, what am I going to do? Okay, they ought to go to the person that's in control, say, hey, what are we going to do? How do we deal with this? In fact, these sailors, they're so afraid. They're casting lots every which way. Okay. And it's kind of funny because the lot lands on Jonah. Jonah says, hey, toss me overboard and everything will be okay. Yet, initially, they still don't do that. God's kind of sent a word through Jonah to them. Hey, if you want the storm to stop, here's the baggage that needs to go away. Yet they don't do that. For us, sometimes we're the same way. God sends a message, say, hey, here's the baggage that needs to go away and the storm will cease. Yet we still continue to sail on with the baggage. Okay, we still hang on to that which God said let go of. Okay, finally they reach a point, okay, yeah, we're just going to toss him overboard. Okay, we don't know what else to do. Okay. The reason they continued to struggle because they kept seeking out something that couldn't save them. Pray to your God, pray to your God, pray to your God, pray to your God. Okay. It's kind of like, and I joke about this, but some people, it's serious. It's kind of like those of us that pray the prayer of salvation every chance we get just to be sure we're saved. Just covering my bases. Okay. Or people that are going to, if there's an altar call, they're going to go every single time just to cover the bases. Okay, there's an issue there. Okay, there's something that's not, something's not connecting. Okay. Second thing, and this involves Jonah. When we're in a storm, we can panic and act in disobedience. Okay. Jonah's disobedience is the reason he's in this situation in the first place. Okay, we've talked about this before. When you create your own storm, make a decision, you make a choice, and that stirred the storm up. You've got control of your choices. You don't have control of your consequences. Okay, I've said that before. I learn that more and more every day. We control our choices. We don't control the consequences. Okay, Jonah doesn't want to do what God has asked him to do. I can relate to that. Sometimes God has said, do this. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. Okay, it's no different than when I was a kid. My mom says, clean your room. No, I don't want to clean my room. Okay, that childish response, I don't know if it ever goes away. Because we still respond like that. Just we're a more mature child, maybe. Okay, so God says, I'm asking you to do this. No, I don't want to do it. Well, Jonah does what a lot of us do. He walks away. If I can put distance between me and what God has asked me to do, then maybe I won't have to do it. Okay? It's kind of like trying to outrun a storm. Sometimes you can outrun it. A lot of times, though, you just don't know if that storm's if it's going to develop this way or that way or what's going to happen. Okay, so Jonah's trying to outrun God. In fact, he knows he's trying to do that because the men say he was fleeing the presence of God because he told them he was fleeing the presence of God. Now, how dumb can you be? You know you're fleeing God's presence, and you're telling everybody you're fleeing God's presence. Okay? This is one of those situations where you know you're sinning, and you're fine with it because you're telling everybody you're doing it. Okay. Yeah, I know I'm doing this. It's kind of like I've got some students, they'll leave the class. Hey, I cheated on that test. They go around telling everybody, all the kids in school, I cheated on that test. Well, guess who's going to find out? Some students going to snitch on their students snitch on one another. Okay. I learned that really fast. They will throw their best friend under the bus in a heartbeat to save their own skin. It's kind of funny. Okay, I had a situation earlier this year. Someone hid someone else's cell phone. I stood in there for 5 minutes in complete silence waiting for someone to come clean. No one was going to say anything. Then I started calling them out in the hall. Bam. They rolled over like that. Okay, sometimes I bribed them, but this time I didn't have to. Okay. This is what, Jonah's just, he's out there saying, hey, look, I cheated on this test. This is what I'm doing. Okay. So he's disobeying God. Well, in that, he's now stuck in which he's got to engage in an act of desperation. Okay. Throw me overboard. Throw me over. Deal with me that way. Toss me over. See, here's the thing about an act of desperation. It never works. Okay. Because for Jonah, did the storm calm for him? No, it got worse because he got swallowed by a big fish. Okay. Now, I saw a documentary, and I won't go into a lot of detail, but they showed how you could fit inside of like a whale. And it showed this guy living inside the whale and crawling out. It was a dead whale, but then crawling out of its mouth, and it was disgusting and awesome at the same time. I was like, that is so cool because that is not me. Okay. But that's the situation that Jonah gets stuck in. I know I've got this picture from the cartoons when I was little. Jonah, he's got lots of living space inside this whale. He's walking around. He's doing good. That's not how it was. If it's anything like this documentary, he was like in a coffin of mucus. Okay? It's nasty. That's what he was stuck in. Okay? It wasn't pleasant. He wasn't walking around, hanging out. Okay? That's the storm he's now in because he was acting in desperation. His first act of desperation was just to flee the presence of God. Next, throw me overboard. Okay? Desperation, does it not, almost always make things worse. You face a situation in your finances. You don't know how you're going to do this, so you do it. You go to a get-rich-quick scheme or balance transfers on credit cards, zero interest, things like that. You start engaging all of those, and before you know it, you've got a worse situation on your hands than you did to begin with. Okay. Here's the thing: when you know you've messed up, it is better to face God face to face than it is to run from it. Because guess who's the only one that can fix the situation you're in? God. I tell my girls the same thing my parents told me. I don't think they believe me because I didn't believe my parents, but I've said a million times, it's better to just come clean and tell me the truth than it is for me to find out on my own or for you to lie and me figure it out. Because the consequences get worse the longer it goes. I didn't believe that when I was a kid. I know now as a parent that's true. Because my girls are in much better shape if they'll just come to me and say, Dad, this is what I did. Okay. I loved it earlier this year when two of my freshman boys come to me and ask me about Jaylee's new boyfriend. What? Yeah, we saw it on Instagram. Huh? It's gone on for like 2 weeks. I got two of my students come and tell me that my daughter's got a new boyfriend. I was not happy. I don't like boys. Spawn of Satan. I sure don't like boys that I don't know about. I was not happy. Okay. We need to face God. Okay. This is the same thing David went through. David needed to just come clean and face God. Okay. It's not like God didn't know what he'd done. It's not like God didn't realize Jonah was fleeing his presence. Okay. we face God and, okay, God, I have messed up. I am sorry. I have sinned against you. I'm repenting. And I need your help. And God will help you. Okay? God's not one of those I told you so types of people. He's not one of those he's going to make it worse before it's better type people. He's going to help you. Okay? He's going to help you. What happened when Jonah repents in the well? He finally gets out of the well. Now the well threw him up, and I suspect God laughed at that a little bit. It's kind of a little kick in the butt on your way out. Don't do that again. Okay. Third thing, and this is where we're shifting to the disciples in Mark 4. We can cry out to God with little faith that it will do any good. Okay. The disciples are in this storm. The controller of the storm, God incarnate, is with them. How do they respond? Well, they go to Jesus, and they don't ask him to still the storm. What they do is they say, "Teacher, do you not know that we are perishing? Or do you not care that we are perishing?" It's a roundabout way of them saying, "Hey, Jesus, look what's going on. Can you do something about it?" You know, it's an act of faith, but then it's not an act of faith. Okay? Because if it was a pure act of faith, Jesus wouldn't later ask them, "Do you still have no faith?" They're approaching Jesus with kind of, "Hey, if you can do something about this, we would really appreciate it because we don't like what we're in." Sometimes that's what we do with God when we're in a situation we don't want to be in. "Hey, God, do you recognize what we're facing? You know, if possible, could you do something about it?" Okay. Jesus is with the disciples on the boat. It's not like they don't know that he's capable of things at this point. They've seen him heal the man with the withered hand. They've seen him do some incredible things so far. He's healed a paralytic. He's cleansed a leper, so on and so forth. It's not like they don't know that Jesus is capable of doing supernatural things. Yet, they're still struggling with that idea. Okay? They've got a fear of that which they cannot control. Okay? When we are not in control, which is funny because control is really a myth. Okay? But when we're not in control, that's fearful for a lot of us. Okay? In my family, I tend to be the one that drives everywhere. Why? Because I don't trust the rest of my family. Okay? I'm a better driver in my opinion. I'm told it's more that I'm a control freak and don't want to let anyone else have control. I don't know if that's true. Okay? But that's how some of us are. We trust ourselves more than trusting the one who created us. We somehow think that we can do better than God can. Okay? And then if we can't control it, we think, well, nobody else can either. Okay? Because if I can't do it, no one else can do it. Okay? What we need to understand in a situation like this is God never ignores cries for help. Okay? And the Psalms are such a great example of this, especially David. The Psalms have a pattern. The pattern is this: David struggles with the idea that God has things in control. Why have you forgotten me? Why have you forsaken me? Why are you far off? Why do you not hear me? Why do you hide your face from me? And then there's an evolution within those Psalms, and by the end of almost every Psalm that David begins with that, it comes back to I will trust you. I'll stand on your name. You're my refuge. You're my strength. God, I'll praise you no matter what. Because David evolves and he remembers who God is, who God has been to him previously, what God says about himself. Okay? So he trusts in that. Your life is a testimony to the fact that God does not ignore cries for help. Okay? We could tell story after story, give testimony after testimony about our lives in which God heard a cry for help. Okay? Does that make the next time easier? I don't know that it does. I don't think any storm is easy when you're in the middle of it. But hopefully it does bring a reassurance maybe that wasn't quite there in the previous time. Okay. And then the final response, and this is the response of Jesus. We can have faith and tell the storm to be still. Okay. We can have faith and tell the storm to be still. Okay. As a people of faith, we believe in a creator that is in control of all things, and because of that has the power to calm his creation when it appears to be out of control to us. Okay? It's never out of control to God. Okay? We look at a storm and we see uncontrollable wind, we see hailstones, we see flooding, we see dark clouds, dark skies. Okay, we see an uncontrollable situation. God sees his creation that is fully under his hand, fully in his control. Okay, he sees something that he simply needs to say, "Be still," and it's still. I think we need to understand in our lives, all it takes is a word from God, "Be still," and it is still. Okay. It doesn't take some master plan. It doesn't take some process. It doesn't take magic words. It simply takes the Creator saying, "Be still." That's all. Okay. That's all you need for your storm to cease, to be calm. Okay, we don't want our panic to betray God's peace, and a lot of times that's what it does. When we panic, it means there is a struggle within our soul regarding the peace of God. Okay, we're struggling to accept that peace. We're struggling to believe in that peace. We're struggling to have that peace. Okay, we simply need the words, "Be still," and that storm calms. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that damage doesn't get done. I'm not saying there's not consequences. Okay. But I'm saying not only can God still the storm, he can repair the damage that the storm caused. Okay. There's nothing that God cannot redeem. Okay. There's no damage done that he cannot take, mold, and use for something good. It's what he does. Okay, that's who he is. Okay, but we've got to understand, unlike the disciples really did in this situation, we've got to understand that if Jesus can sleep through a storm, then it's probably going to be okay. That God is on our boat. And he's not worried about it. Because he's got it under control. And he may be waiting for you to come to him there, in the stern of your boat and acknowledge, "Hey, you're the Creator. You're the one who can do this. Help." Okay? Your faith may be being stretched a bit. Okay, for a purpose, for growth. But you still only have to ask God to say, "Be still." And he'll still your storm. Let's pray. God, I'm thankful this morning that you are the calmer of storms. That you can calm a physical storm, you can calm a mental storm, an emotional storm, a spiritual storm, God, that there's nothing in our lives that is chaotic to you, but it's all under your authority. It's all within your ability to deal with, to calm, to repair. So God, I just pray that whenever we face a storm, regardless of how it may have developed, God, that we'd understand that you can handle it, that you can calm it, that you can repair the damage that's done in its wake. And that we don't ever face anything that can destroy us as long as you are with us. In Jesus' name, amen.